All right, we're live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we've got a bunch of big news to talk about. We have an official release date for EIP-1559 on top of Ethereum. If you're like, hey, what is that? Why is that even important? We're going to talk about in this video why that's such huge news for this entire ecosystem and potentially even the price of Ether. Okay. So we got a lot to talk about that, plus some updates that have happened in the space since yesterday. We're going to look at the crypto markets and a whole lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Last but not least, there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. Just ignore them. Like, I'll never give you my phone number or ask you to invest with me. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Culture Hives, Fivetorial, THX Life, NSS Project. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So we got some pretty major news for the Ethereum ecosystem about this major upgrade that's happening for the Ethereum network. All right, so this is known as EIP-1559. If you've been watching this channel, I've been watching these live streams, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this loads of times. But I just want to reiterate what this is in case you're brand new. I like to assume like zero knowledge on this channel. I don't want people to feel like, hey, feel bad about asking questions. So basically, EIP-1559 is a major network upgrade for Ethereum that changes lots of things. But one thing that people are really excited about is that it actually starts burning Ethereum cryptocurrency or Ether whenever new transactions are created. So right now, when you're using Ethereum, basically you're paying a fee every time you do a transaction, and that fee is going to pay the miners on the network. But for EIP-1559, during this upgrade, what happens is that fee gets split into two parts, okay? And part of that fee goes to the miners, but another part of that fee actually gets burnt. It basically gets erased from the network. So why is this important? Well, it's important for lots of reasons, but the thing people are most excited about is it actually affects the economics of Ethereum cryptocurrency, or Ether itself, where it slows the rate that new Ether is issued into the supply. So basically, it slows down ETH production, kind of like the Bitcoin halving. It actually makes ETH more scarce. And if the Ethereum network is used a lot over time, it can actually make Ether become deflationary by nature, where there's actually, more ETH being burned than there is created. So time will tell about what those usage statistics look like and how that impacts the price of Ether, but that's what people are really excited about. So anyways, we have an update on when this is going to happen. We've been talking about, hey, we think this is going to happen in the middle of July, maybe the beginning of August, something like that. We've kind of seen some timelines thrown around, some release dates get pushed back. The community is kind of notorious for leaking certain dates and setting expectations, and then like, hey, they don't happen when people think they're going to. But we actually got an official word yesterday that we're pretty certain that we have a solid release date for EIP-1559. So I'll pull that up on my screen and talk about that. So this is from Tim Bako, who's a pretty trustworthy source on this type of information. He's known as a researcher in this space, big contributor towards EIP-1559 project. So anyways, the spec for this is called the London hard fork upgrade, by the way. This includes other things besides EIP-1559, but that's the leading thing that people, are kind of paying attention to. But anyways, the spec for this is actually merged. So Tim Bako, you can see everything here on Twitter. I'll actually just put a link to this tweet if you want to go check it out for yourself. I'll put it in the live stream chat right now, so it should be in sync with the video. So they have the specifications here. And so unless there is any objection on this with the all-core devs call that's going to happen this Friday, all right, so we'll know this week for sure. But we're pretty confident that this is going to get shipped on August 4th. Okay, so that's huge. That's less than a month away. And this is one of the long-anticipated, events that people have been waiting for on the Ethereum network, and we're just on the cusp of this. Okay, so this is super exciting. This is a major milestone for the Ethereum network. This is something that I think the markets have been really watching out for. I think people will probably see the opportunity to accumulate Ether before this happens. Again, the cryptocurrency markets are highly driven by, kind of narrative hype and all that type of stuff, and try to get ahead of things before they happen and build excitement in the, in the space. And I think this is a really big catalyst for that. Okay, and so one thing that's pretty cool that you can see, I want to show you how we do this is, so basically these network upgrades don't happen on specific dates, all right? So there's nothing in the actual software that says, hey, this is the date that it's going to happen. They do it by blocks, okay? So basically, whenever you do things on the blockchain, you essentially can use the actual blocks themselves as a time reference. So whenever you create new transactions, they're all added to the public ledger, and whenever you add, those blocks are stored across time. The transactions are stored in bundles of blocks that are chained together to make it the blockchain, and each block has a number. And based upon the number of blocks that get mined per minute, you can kind of determine what a future time is going to be by the actual block number itself. And so that's how these blocks get implemented, or that's how these network upgrades get implemented. They basically say, hey, a certain block number, that's when we're going to upgrade. And so I wanted to educate you all on this and show you how it works, so you can see the upgrade schedule on different test networks, and then finally the mainnet is the last one here. And so you can see the block number that proposed is 129,650,000, and that expected date is this August 4th. So one thing that's pretty cool that I want to share with you all, we can actually track this, is Etherscan has a tool where you can put in the block number like that, so 129,650,000, and you can actually track the date of what that is. Okay, so I'll actually put a link to this in the live chat stream right here, so this should be in sync with my video. You can check that out. But you can, add any arbitrary block inside of here and try to play with it and find the countdown time. That's just a pretty cool tool that I wanted to share with you all, so that you can track this, because that's how they do these upgrades. They say, hey, at this block number, we're going to do it, and you just kind of guess on the date of when that's going to be. I mean, you can calculate it, right? But if you want to visualize it yourself, that's a good way to do it. So let's actually look at the price. Let's kind of see how the market is responding to this type of thing. Let's look at the price of Ether. Let's look at other cryptocurrencies. Again, we've been talking about DeFi kind of having a pretty big move. We talked about that in our live stream yesterday. I want to talk about some other updates in the DeFi space that you need to be aware of and that are affecting what's going on right now. There are a couple ways this could also affect the price of Ether, okay? Like I was saying before, the cryptocurrency markets are driven by really two things. Fundamental value of the networks themselves. They call that fundamentals, you know what I mean? And then also sort of the narrative hype speculation. So, EIP-1559 could definitely have an impact on the price of Ether simply because around the hype narrative speculation that now ETH is deflationary and that now it's it's burning ETH and, it's going to have a positive impact on the price. And so the market could be responding to that. It also could be responding to the just sort of hype that this is coming up down the pike and some sort of bullish catalyst that people get excited about. So, I mean, I think we're seeing some of that, right? ETH is kind of leading some of the recovery here, especially compared to Bitcoin right now. We can see ETH. Let's see here. Yeah, but they're a pretty good gain over the past 14 days, but not as strong as what's been going on with DeFi, right? So if DeFi is positively responding to some of the catalysts, I think that we will probably see ETH respond more to the EIP-1559 news as this kind of starts to approach the date. Because honestly, I don't think a lot of people really understand what's happening with EIP-1559. And because you say that word, and then what does that even mean, right? There's all this education that you have to go through in order to understand what it is and what the benefit of it is. So I think so we kind of approach that date, we'll probably see the ETH price respond to that. Now, that being said, there's some caveats. If the entire market nukes, I don't think we're just going to see ETH, hold up and rocket off into infinity if something, major happens with the market. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what those factors end up being. So let's look at how he's holding up with the Bitcoin price. I'm actually going to pull up my TradingView chart here. Let's see here. Let me just pull it up. So Bitcoin price, it still feels like we're in this limbo where we're just not really sure if we want to be bullish, we want to be bearish. Let me just pull up Bitcoin here. All right, here we go. So we got the Bitcoin price here. So we have made a somewhat higher low, which is good in the short term. We did get this rejection here. Like I said, we're still kind of in this phase where we're kind of waiting to see what happens. Bitcoin's made this correction. We made lower lows here, and then we're starting to make higher lows. I would like to see Bitcoin, print a nice big candle to get above these moving averages to show some signs of bullishness, okay? Because it's been kind of getting weak, all right? We've been trying to make higher highs here, and we didn't make a higher high. And so over the next couple days, I think people are going to be sitting around saying, can we push above this level? Can we push above this level? If Bitcoin makes some nice big candle, I think that'll be a good sign that the bulls are ready to come out and play. To me, Bitcoin is still a waiting game. We can check on the ETH price. Let's see here. We'll just look at the Coinbase price. I think ETH is responding well to EIP-1559. I mean, we made a green candle here, right? We're kind of in this chop, but it looks like it's wanting to push upward, and we're above these moving averages, which is positive. All right, if we can establish ourselves above these long-term moving averages and start making progress in a bullish way that way, then that would be positive. And I think that we can do that, especially with the EIP 1559 upgrade. But that being said, I don't think it's just going to do it independently if the rest of the market's kind of tanking, going downward. So we'll just have to see if we're fighting too much resistance with the overall markets with ETH, despite this bullish news. So let's check on the DeFi projects, because yesterday I talked about how DeFi has been doing really well. We've seen projects, double over the past 2 weeks in price, and not many cryptocurrency projects are doing that. All right. And so I talked about how that's a good sign, because if we were in this crazy crypto winter that people are worried about, like we saw in 2017, 2018, 2019, where just nobody wanted to touch crypto projects, they didn't respond positively to any news, narratives, nothing. No matter what they did, the prices just went down. That's not the case right now for DeFi. And so we have seen DeFi projects respond to some bullish news. I talked about that yesterday. Aave releasing their institutional product, doing well. I talked about synthetics. One project I didn't talk about quite as much is Compound. Okay, we looked at the price briefly yesterday, but I wanted to reiterate kind of some stuff that's happening in the Compound space. All right, so I made a video about this actually last week, but I want to reiterate because this is actually getting sort of priced in. All right. So I talked about Compound providing this institutional product for investors as well. So basically, Compound Treasury. It's this way that essentially institutional participants can take funds, we're talking about institutional participation in cryptocurrency, people holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet, people holding actually their cash reserves and crypto assets, okay? So that Compound is bringing that to DeFi, where essentially, and they're making it easier, where essentially you can just take dollars and put them in Compound Treasury, and you can take advantage of you can get exposed to the yields that are provided by DeFi, the high yields, by just keeping cash in a sort of a permission account this way. And why this is such a big deal, I think it's one of the directions that blockchain and DeFi is headed, is to bridge over traditional finance, because all these big players in traditional finance, you only need a handful of them to come over and participate in DeFi to really move the needle, because they have so much money. And like I said, I made a video about that last week, and go check it out, about Compound and their product. But you can see that Compound made this pretty big jump in price in response, right? It doubled. Okay, so we're seeing a little bit of a correction here. We'll see if we can maintain some of this momentum. We'll see if we'll see if the cryptocurrency markets kind of have some life in them. This would be a pretty good test of what the overall sentiment, because if we keep responding well to bullish fundamentals, then that's positive for the overall markets. So if you got any questions here. 160K ETH, that would be nice. Somebody says EIP 1559 will not make gas prices lower. So EIP 1559 will actually have some impact on the gas prices, because it will include the on-chain gas oracle. Let's see here. So is ETH already at 2.0? Will there be an issue with gas prices going up again? So ETH 2.0, so the important thing to understand is EIP 1559 is not necessarily a part of the ETH 2.0 roadmap. Okay, it's actually a separate upgrade that's just, different from what's going on with Ethereum 2.0. So yeah, basically EIP-1559 is a different effort. So ETH 2.0 we'll essentially move to ETH 2.0, and that ETH 2.0 actually will have some effect on the gas prices themselves, but the biggest benefit that we're going to get is actually from layer 2 scaling solutions. So people talk about, Ethereum being too slow, too expensive to use. Well, that's what layer 2 scaling solutions are really going to solve. And we don't need Ethereum 2.0 to ship in order to get the benefits of layer 2 scaling solutions, essentially increasing the speed of Ethereum and making it cheaper to use. We can get that benefit now before ETH 2.0 ships. Now, the layer 2 scaling solutions actually have to ship, in production and become widely adopted to get that benefit. All right, that's also another critical important point. But that can happen before the ETH 2.0 merge happens and before ETH 2.0 becomes widely adopted. Okay, so. But long term, we'll have layer 2 scaling solutions on top of Ethereum 2.0. So if we adopt them now and they actually gain network effects, then they can stay and remain whenever the merge happens and we move into ETH 2.0 world. So also another important point to understand is whenever the merge happens for ETH 2.0, that's just one event on the ETH 2.0 roadmap, and ETH 2.0 really won't be fully here. It's just that we'll have proof of stake, okay? And the two chains will be merged. We still have to wait to get into sharding territory before, all of ETH 2.0 is rolled out. Somebody says I should cover the triple halving. Yeah, that's a good idea. I know what you're talking about. So basically, like sort of ETH triple halving, like EIP. Basically, the three sort of major. Three major factors that cause ETH's economics to be more scarce. So people talk about the Bitcoin halving being a major factor on why the Bitcoin price goes up in the first place, because less Bitcoin is produced every 4 years. So if y'all understand this, basically what happens is, Bitcoin is a proof of work blockchain. It has miners. It creates new Bitcoin every time blocks are mined. So it's called the block subsidy or block reward. So if you're a Bitcoin miner, whenever transactions are created, including the blockchain, you mine the blocks and you get paid. The network just creates new Bitcoin and you get paid with that. So there's a certain amount of Bitcoin created every single block, and every 4 years, that amount of Bitcoin gets cut in half. That's what the halving event is, all right? And so the whole idea here is that less Bitcoin's getting created every block, and that it just affects the supply of Bitcoin. And if the demand for Bitcoin at least stays the same, then that will naturally have a positive impact on the price of Bitcoin. So people talk about the triple halving for Ether. Basically, the three different things that affect the price of Ether. So we don't have the same type of halving schedule that Bitcoin does, but EIP-1559 being what I'm talking about, ETH actually becoming deflationary, or potentially being deflationary if there's enough sustained network activity, that can be a big event, kind of like the halving combined with these other things. So there are other things that affect this. As far as the triple halving narrative goes, I can't remember what they officially include in the other two things. So if you remember what that is, let me know down in the comment section below. I could probably just look it up, but if you remember off the top of your head. Let's see here. What are the other two things that they're talking about? So, like, I know there's other stuff like the proof of work to proof of stake. Yeah, I just can't remember what the other factors that they're using to talk about the triple. So what effect does Uniswap locking their code have on other swap projects? So basically, it's going to make it, you're in violation of their terms of service if you just fork their code. So, you're technically breaking the law. And so I know some people say you can't really enforce this if they're like anonymous teams and all this stuff, but it still is going to impact the sentiment around your project quite a bit, I would think, if your community knows that you're just taking code you're not supposed to. Yeah, sentiment matters in Somebody says EIP-1559 and proof of stake are the other two. So we're talking about EIP-1559. I understand proof of stake too, but what's the third one? I probably know what it is. I'm just trying to understand what they officially include in the triple halving. Somebody says, will EIP-1559 affect the price of other ERC-20 coins such as Shiba Inu? I don't see a reason why it would have a strong impact on other ERC-20 tokens. I mean, perhaps in the sense that, now, I just don't really see a strong reason why it would. Maybe people get more excited about ETH and what's happening on the network, and maybe that could accrue to ERC-20 tokens, but I don't see a strong correlation between EIP-1559 improvement and what's going on with ERC-20s. Somebody says, is burning incentivize or disincentivize network activity on the whole? I don't see any reason why it would disincentivize network activity. I don't see any reason if you were an ETH holder that you wouldn't want ETH to get burned with new transactions. I mean, I think there are other UX improvements with EIP-1559 that will actually make on-chain activity better. Like, that's the whole point. It's a UX upgrade. One of those is the on-chain gas oracle that makes more reliable. It basically changes how you do gas prices for new transactions. And I think that this new UX upgrade for those gas prices will actually incentivize network activity. Because here's the thing that people don't like about Ethereum network is, like, you go in there and you connect MetaMask and you go try to make a swap. And when you click swap, then you have these, like, all these options for how much you're supposed to pay for gas. And you might pick the wrong thing, and then your transaction doesn't get included to the block. And it's a huge pain. And that's, people are like, I just wasted this time and money. So I don't want to use Ethereum. I'm going to bounce. And so this is a UX upgrade that's actually really going to help that. But it's just one of the side benefits is that it gets burned, ETH gets burned. But that's the sort of the leading benefit that everybody talks about with this upgrade, because, it could potentially have an effect on the price of Ether long term. And so as far as my official stance on the Ether price impact, and whether ETH's actually going to become deflationary, you have to understand a couple things. One, we still have to have demand for Ether in order to get this price benefit. Well, there's two things. There's one where, like I said before, there's sort of just the hype and the narrative around EIP-1559. People get excited that something's happening in Ethereum and they buy up a bunch of Ether and just to speculate around this event. That's sort of the speculative demand. And that can definitely have a price impact. But let's talk about the fundamental, demand, which is I want to hold Ether because I can, one, stake it, I can use it to pay for transactions on the Ethereum network, I can use it in DeFi, I can use it collateral, whatever. Those are more the fundamental demand. So, or I want to trade tokens on Uniswap, so I need to hold Ether to do that. So in that category, two things have to happen. One, we have to basically continue to have demand for Ether in order for the price impact to happen. And yeah, the other thing is we have to actually see enough sustained network activity to really get the benefit. Now, ETH doesn't have to be completely deflationary for, this benefit of price appreciation to happen. Because what can happen is if we're burning ETH, we can still slow the rate of production that new ETH is slow the rate of production, like the rate that new ETH is created. Even if we slow it, that's still going to have an impact as long as we maintain demand for Ether. But it doesn't necessarily have to become deflationary, because when it's totally deflationary is when there's so much activity on the Ethereum network that the amount of ETH burned is more than the amount of new ETH created, and essentially cancels it out and becomes deflationary. So time will tell if that happens, but there's good reason to think that it will, because of all the crazy innovations happening on top of the Ethereum network, everything you want to do with it. And like I've talked about a ton on this channel, the long-term thesis is the more utility value you provide your cryptocurrencies, that essentially creates more demand for the assets themselves, more demand for the networks themselves, and that value can accrue to the price of the actual cryptos, because they're essentially supply and demand markets, okay? And the more you can do with Ethereum, the more useful it is in DeFi, the more useful it is for all this stuff, the more reason that you have for people to actually do transactions on it and potentially, make ETH deflationary with this new upgrade. Yeah, August 14th, EIP-1559, supply and demand. So supply may not impact price that much. We need demand to stay the same or increase. Somebody says, I had no idea what I wanted to do for work after college, so I'm really glad I learned blockchain. I'm loving my job as a blockchain developer, thanks in part to your YouTube channel. Awesome. Very cool, Adrian. Excited to hear that. Somebody says August 4th, not 14th. Did I say 14th? I might have said 14th. I meant August 4th. So I put the links to the official sources in the chat there, so you can see that. Somebody says price gonna pump on 4th of August. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's one of those things where we could likely pump before that. And one potential scenario here is it's a buy the rumor, sell the news sort of incidents where people buy it ahead of time and then EIP 1559 happens and then they just sell their ether because they think the hype over that thing is over. But I think it's the thing about it is there's so much on the roadmap for ETH besides just EIP 1559. Okay, we have EIP 1559. We have all these layer 2 scaling solutions that are coming out, and we're also going to have ETH2 merge happening at the beginning of this year, optimistically, more conservatively, the beginning of next year. So there's lots of exciting stuff coming up for ETH on the pike. So we can always check on our tool here, watch the burn. So this is the EIP 1559 network upgrade on the test network, and we can actually see how much ether gets burned with these transactions here. All right, so we're getting close to 90,000 ether. I'll put this link in the chat. Somebody asked me what this was the other day, so I'll just link it so you have the reference here. Somebody says, if I were to quantify how much riskier do you think ETH is than Bitcoin? Seems like ETH has much stronger competition, in a high-tech industry. Seems like more of a venture investment. I think that I think that's pretty accurate to say that ETH is more of a venture bet. Honestly, I would say the biggest risks with ETH right now is the fact that it's undergoing changes, and that's what makes people kind of nervous. Bitcoin's kind of a set it and forget it type of thing. It does go through upgrades, but the overall kind of like vision for Bitcoin is this is its final form. With ETH, that's not necessarily the case. We have this, thing about ETH 2.0, and there's still, uncertainty about what's going to happen with that in the future. Now, I have a pretty high degree of confidence that ETH 2.0 is going to be successful. I watch this space day in, day out. I see what's happening. So that makes me very confident in ETH. But if you're talking about literally just from a totally objective standpoint, ETH is riskier than Bitcoin. And I think you're rewarded for that risk. When you're talking about your portfolio allocation. Yeah, I wouldn't call it incredibly high risk. All cryptocurrency is high risk. let's be totally for real. But relative to the cryptocurrency markets, ETH is riskier than Bitcoin, but it's not super high risk. A super high risk project is some coin that was just created. Or has never actually shipped a working version of their product and is really just saying, hey, we're going to do this, but have no real visible traction. That's a high-risk crypto product. All right, everybody. That's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps his videos out so the more people can learn about blockchain. If you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, you can actually become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. Again, you don't have to be an expert to get started today. Help people people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.